Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. For me, it is good afternoon. And where am I? I'm in Mexico. I'm in Puerto Vallarta, and I'm attending the International Symposium of Fish Nutrition and Fish Feeding. It's a biannual event, and we're very happy to be here in the sunshine, 31 degrees most days, and we're in the last day of the conference. And the conference has attracted over 300 people, and a key gold sponsor of the conference this year is dsm-firmenich. And I'm pleased to say I'm on their stand here at the conference, and I'm speaking to Dr. Benedict Standen, and he's the head of Aqua marketing globally. Welcome, Ben, or should I say, I'm very pleased to be here, Ben.
Sure, thank you very much for the opportunity, Roger.
Yeah. I'd just like to ask you a couple of questions about how important this event, this ISFNF, is to the industry.
Sure, I mean, it's not every day you have the opportunity to really connect to global leading experts in nutrition and health, right? So I think this gathering of knowledge and the sharing of knowledge is super important for moving the industry forwards. So when you think about some of the topics that have been discussed, I think they're absolutely relevant for today's industry. So for example, with a lot of talk on sustainability, circular economy, a lot of talk about nutrition, novel raw materials, and of course health solutions. So I think it's only when you put all of these together and they're really collaborating, then you really make an impact on the industry.
Yeah. And we've had, as I said, 4 days. I mean, a huge number of conference presentations, and it's just one session, isn't it? There's no breakout sessions, so the concentration is fantastic.
Absolutely, and that's one of the huge advantages, I think, of ISFNF, for example. So there's only one session, so you don't have to worry about missing different talks. So you're really there for the duration, and every single presentation really has something to learn from as well. So it's very, very easy to manage your schedule here.
Yeah. And Ben, what was the most standout? I know maybe it's difficult to say, but what was the most standout one or two presentations that you heard?
I think there's been a couple of them actually. So I think, like I said, there's been a lot of talk about the circular economy, circular ingredients and things like this. So I think this is not just a kind of just for this week. Of course, this is going to become more and more important when we think about sustainable aqua feeds, especially when we think about the footprint of those aqua feeds, because 80% of the total footprint is coming from those feeds, mostly from the raw materials. Today we had a lot of nice talks, and also yesterday, and maybe we'll touch upon one presentation for myself later, about health. So often we focus a lot on nutrition, and actually something that was raised this morning by some researchers from an NMBU is actually we shouldn't think about nutrition as an isolated topic, but actually how is that implicated into health and nutrition, immunonutrition. Yeah. So as well, they're very interconnected.
And to me, that was a standout presentation that we had just before lunch about maybe feeding or formulating for disease control or health, as you put it. Is that something that we should be focusing more on?
Absolutely, fully agree. And actually, when you think about some of the concepts that dsm-firmenich has, that's exactly what we're doing with the Optimum Vitamin Nutrition, for example. So what that is about, it's about applying the right vitamin at the right time for the right objective. And like you say, that objective might be for growth, and you might find the right vitamin concentration for growth. But as you say, and as was expressed this morning, that doesn't necessarily mean that vitamin is enough, for example, when the animal is challenged by disease, by biological stresses, by handling stresses, for example. So it's only when you go to the OVN or the OVN Plus, you can really manage these new requirements of the fish.
And these requirements, I mean, you've just published, haven't you, since the first book, apparently since 2011, on vitamin requirements in fish species.
Absolutely. Actually, I didn't realize until we saw the presentation that we are now, that nothing was published before. But actually, as part of the OVN concept, the levels are updated every 4 to 5 years. And happily, this event, we could launch our new OVN book. So this was actually based on the 2022 guidelines. And it's really going beyond kind of a marketing fold. It's really all of the literature from the last X amount of years that are really bringing these levels. So the table looks quite simple, but there's a lot of data and a lot of information behind it, and that's exactly what this book is detailing.
Yeah. And what were the highlights of that you were emphasizing specifically in your presentation?
Okay, so one of the core themes that we're promoting actually in this event, it's about going from exposed to protected. So this is our new campaign, and it's focusing on the health and the welfare of the animal. So we can think of disease, but it's not just about disease. You know, the aquatic animals are always going to be stressed somehow. It could be from disease, the biological stressor, but it could also be from stocking density, vaccinations, handling, anything like this. And as soon as the animals have become stressed, they become immune compromised, and they become more susceptible to disease. So that's exactly what we're doing at dsm-firmenich, trying to establish what solutions we have. And I say solutions because there's no silver bullet product per se. So how we're approaching the topic, we're thinking about how can we improve the immunity of the animal? How can we make the animal more robust, allowing the animal to help itself? Secondly, we're focusing on the pathogens. So what products or what active components can we deliver to fight the pathogen directly, whether that's a bacteria or whether it's a parasite, for example. And thirdly, it's not just about including those components in the feed which will promote immunity, it's also removing those components from the feed which will take away immunity, for example, mycotoxins. So we're approaching this whole health and welfare topic across these three pillars. And my presentation specifically was presenting some novel data, some new data we have with an enhanced acidifier to mitigate Pischia salmonsis, which is the etiological agent for salmonid rickettsial septicemia, SRS, which is a big problem in Chile, not just to drive mortality, but also driving a higher than expected use of antibiotics as well.
Well, that was the other subject we heard several people or presentations address, was antimicrobial use, but also resistance. Is that a theme that we should focus on going forward?
Absolutely, 150%. We often think of antibiotics being implicated in fish health, shrimp health, for example, because that's what we are working in. But actually, overusing antibiotics has huge implications for human health. And actually, AMR, antimicrobial resistance, the World Health Organization have defined as the biggest threat to human civilization. It's a huge crisis waiting to happen. So this is basically where, of course, different bacteria, viruses are no longer effective to antibiotics, and of course that's then a problem for us if these antibiotics are used in human medicine. And just to put some numbers to this, according to a report that was commissioned by the UK government actually, by 2050, around 10 million people will die as a direct result of antimicrobial resistance. And that's not taking into consideration all of the millions of indirect deaths, which AMR is playing part of. So as an industry, I don't believe we're the biggest contributor to antimicrobial resistance, but of course we are utilizing antibiotics, so we have our part to pay, and we have a responsibility to try and reduce that for a more sustainable future.
And that's what I was going to ask you, because we, as an industry, as a food producing industry, we can't be the biggest user of antimicrobials, and but do we have to show the way? Do we have to take the opportunity to show other food producing or animal producing sectors that there is a way of minimizing or eliminating antimicrobial or antibiotic use?
Absolutely, and I think here maybe we also have to take a step back from aquaculture. We have to think about the whole protein sector, right? So different protein sectors have slightly different challenges, but of course we have to get our own home in order before we start to advise others. As a saying in English, you shouldn't throw stones in glass houses, right? So we should actually fix our issues first, and like you say, be a leader actually. In terms of sustainability, we often think that Aqua is sometimes behind poultry, behind swine in various ways. But again, we're a smaller industry, and maybe that allows us to be more flexible, more dynamic, and things like that. So it might be the smaller species in terms of compound feed, for example, but we can actually be more dynamic and find solutions, and which other species can also learn from as well.
Well, moving away from antibiotics, was there anything else that took your attention? Any other subject?
Any other subject? Like I say, I would like to see a little bit more health actually on this thing. So like I say, health is hugely important, and I think the last couple of years, what we've also seen from the market, health, maybe it's been a little bit neglected. For example, we've seen huge increases in raw material prices, for example. So a lot of the focus of the industry has been to focus on the nutrition, to reduce costs, taken out any non-essential products, for example, So I think they've also, by focusing on feed cost, nutrition, I think health has been a little bit behind or left behind. So what I would like to see in the next coming years, and we are also seeing that already, we're getting more questions on health, welfare in the future.
Well, that's excellent, Ben. Thank you very much for that oversight. Very interesting. And as I said earlier on, we have a lovely environment here. We're in the Congress Centre here in Porta Velata, and we've had an excellent 4 days. But thank you from all the attendees on behalf of them. Thank you very much for the support you've given to the conference this year, Ben.
And on behalf of dsm-firmenich, thank you very much for taking the time, and everybody who's taken the time also to engage with us as well. Thank you.
Thank you.